including those who are watching this evening on PCN. I'm John Jones, the president of Dickinson College, and in that capacity, it is my privilege to welcome you to this first debate among the Republican candidates for governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Here at Dickinson, we hold fast to the ideals on which we were founded nearly 240 years ago, that an informed citizenry is essential to the health of a democracy. We agreed to host this important debate in that spirit. Indeed, as we saw a year ago, our democracy can be fragile. While differences among candidates may be stark, we must all stand firmly in support of the rule of law and the legitimacy of our democracy. It is our hope that this debate and those that follow will foment the kind of interest among voters that will allow for both engagement and turnout in the upcoming May primary election. I wish all of the candidates good luck, and now turn the program over to our organizer, Chris Nicholas.
Thank you, President Jones, and welcome everyone to this Commonwealth Series debate, the first debate among the many Republican candidates for governor. Before I go on, I want to thank Dickinson College and also PCN TV for broadcasting this and live streaming it. We have 4 co-sponsors tonight: broadandliberty.com, the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the Keystone Free Enterprise Fund, and GOP Super PAC Protect PA. Now, of course, with debates, there's rules. So very quickly, the rules are this. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the long-form questions. There will be a segment of brief yes or no in the lightning round, and then there'll be 1 minute for closing statements, okay? And I want to introduce the moderators today. The moderator today in the middle, former Republican State Representative Becky Corbin. To my immediate right, Allison Kosha, Director of Political Engagement at the Pennsylvania Chamber. And on the far end, Terry Tracy, President and CEO of Broad and Liberty. We ask you here in the audience to hold your applause until the end, so we give as much time as possible to the candidates to start. Okay? Thank you, everyone. With that, Becky, off to you.
Thank you, Chris, and welcome to our candidates and those watching here and on TV. With us tonight are the following Republican candidates for governor: John Ventry, retired UPS executive; Charlie Giroux, CEO of Quantum Communications; Bill McSwain, former United States Attorney; Dr. Enshe Zama, cardiothoracic surgeon; Jason Ritchie, attorney; Dave White, former county council member; Jason Mon, former mayor of Corey; Guy Shiraki, CEO of the Chester County Chamber; County Commissioner Joe Gale; Melissa Hart, former member of Congress; State Senator Scott Martin; Sean Berger, business owner; and State Senator Jake Corman. Candidates, we will begin the answers to our first question with Mr. Ventry at podium number 1. Allison, your question, please.
Welcome, candidates. Thank you for being here. For at least the last century, Pennsylvania has been losing population. Businesses and families are choosing to live and locate in other states. What is causing this outward migration, and how do we stop it?
Thank you. Pennsylvania has one of the worst tax structures possibly. We're the 15th highest tax state in the union. We're 42nd in population growth. We just took over 48th in business growth. What we need to do, my plan calls for a large tax break for businesses, and I'm going to do it on 2 tiers. A 30% tax break in Southeast PA, a 50% for the rest of the state, because they need the break a little bit more. They're not doing as well. I want to hear a sucking sound out of the Northeast as jobs come to us. Right now, they drive through us. It's like flyover America. Pennsylvania's drive through America, and they don't even stop for gas for a good reason. We have the 2nd highest gas tax. That's going to change too. We're going to draw these businesses in, do a business tax break, and that's how we're going to make Pennsylvania great again. I plan to make Pennsylvania the Texas of the Northeast. Thank you.
Mr. Giroux?
It's great to be here at Dickinson College tonight, where I once taught, and as I look across the chasm there and see one of my former students, not you, Representative Corbin, asking the questions, it gives me a special sense of happiness, because economic competitiveness is what's going to keep our young people here in Pennsylvania. And our young people deserve a future as great as the one we've been handed us. But sadly, they're moving to South Carolina, to Florida, to Texas, to Arizona, because that's where they believe the opportunities lie. We've got a bad tax structure in Pennsylvania. We're losing our population, and it's the old Ronald Reagan formula: lower taxes, sensible regulation, and I add a third leg to that stool, and that is cleaning up public corruption, because job creators are not coming to Pennsylvania with their opportunities if they believe they have to pay to play. We are 48th in the nation in terms of lost population. We have to reverse that trend. If you want more than a 1-minute answer, charlieforgovernor.com.
Thank you. Mr. McSwain.
We need to make Pennsylvania an attractive place for businesses to start, grow, and thrive. But let me approach this from a particular angle. We can't be competitive without public safety, because businesses simply aren't going to invest in high crime areas. Now, I have dedicated much of my life to public safety. I'm a Marine, I'm a federal prosecutor, and I'm a U.S. attorney appointed by President Trump. He entrusted me with one of the most important jobs in his administration. And while I was U.S. attorney, I protected the community and its businesses by putting rioters, looters, and arsonists in jail. 2 summers ago, when they tried to destroy Philadelphia, I stopped heroin injection sites from invading Pennsylvania neighborhoods, and I put violent criminals and corrupt politicians in jail. I am the only candidate in this race with law enforcement experience, the only one. So if you care about law enforcement, you care about public safety, and you care about economic competitiveness, I'm your candidate.
Thank you. Dr. Zama.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to be here today. And it's been very unfortunate. I've been campaigning legitimately for the past 7 months, and the state and national media has chosen to shut me out. So I truly appreciate this opportunity. Now, in the answer to your question, the answer is really multifactorial. And I start with the old adage that you get more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. And so many of our policies have been hostile to not just our own children, but to those outside of Pennsylvania who would choose to move here. For example, our business policies, draconian tax policies that are suffocating businesses in this state, and also our children. We have become a state that spends billions on education, and we're the largest exporter of graduates. We need to be able to embrace those graduates who can stay here and start new families.
Thank you. Mr. Ritchie.
Yes, I am a political outsider from Western Pennsylvania. I'm from Pittsburgh, and we have seen dramatic losses in populations, as you said, over the last 50 years. It is the #1 problem with Pennsylvania. I've been married 21 years. I have 3 boys. They're all in high school right now. And the reason I'm running is I want to keep those boys here. I've campaigned now in all 67 counties. And what we have seen is grandmothers and mothers heartbroken because their kids and grandkids are raised in places of economic opportunity like Tennessee and Texas. So our plan is to bring Pennsylvania slowly over time to 0% income tax. We have seen that in the other states, and in particular Tennessee. If you've been to Nashville lately, you've seen a town that's resurrected. And if you do it slowly over time and we shrink the cost of our government during that time, we will attract new population here, keep our wonderful graduates from places like Carnegie and Mellon and Penn here, and we get our energy industry going, and we will reverse that population trend under a Ritchie administration.
Thank you. Mr. White.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. You're not going to attract new businesses, new corporations to Pennsylvania until they have certainty in Pennsylvania. I'm a small business owner. I know how difficult it is every day to run a business. And until we get our tax structure, gas taxes lowered, corporate income taxes lowered, but more than that, we have to attack the regulations of this state. We have to attack the permitting. We have to shorten the length of time for the permitting so the corporations have certainty when they come here. They want to know their answers before they apply. They're spending a lot of money to locate and relocate into Pennsylvania. If we want them to come to Pennsylvania, we must make Pennsylvania want them as well. Under our Dave White administration, we're going to make sure that happens. I'm a small business owner that knows how to get job growth, has paid job growth, has signed the front of a paycheck, and I know why I located in Pennsylvania. And every day it is hard. I'm going to stay in Pennsylvania. But when we fix our regulations, when we fix our tax structure, and when we fix our permitting, we will get job growth in Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Mr. Mon.
Well, I'm going to say something that you probably aren't expecting from a candidate. I agree with everything that everybody has said because it's the truth. It's simple. I also am a small business owner. I'm a restaurateur. So as you guys are I'm sure you know that the last 2 years have been phenomenal in my industry. And, we are a company that had to learn how to keep jobs. Not one person lost a job in my place. Not one person lost hours. Not one person lost pay. I did that because I have a love of Pennsylvania, but there are a lot of companies that don't love Pennsylvania because of our taxes, our regulations. And I am a firm believer that it's government's job to facilitate progress, not to dictate how to do it. And in the Jason Mon administration, that's what I would do. We would be business friendly. And, in 1 minute, it's hard to say all that. But again, just like the other candidate said, go to jasonmon.com and check us out.
Thank you. Mr. Shiraki.
Pennsylvania's economy has been worse than the nation's for most of the 21st century. Today, our unemployment rate is 1.5% worse than the nation's. What's that mean? It means that if we just had the national average, 95,000 more Pennsylvanians would be going to work today. That would change 95,000 families and dozens of communities across the state. The reality is, as you look on it, it's as if Harrisburg has wanted us to fail. We have more assets than almost every other state. From agriculture to life sciences, we're sitting on more energy than most nations on the planet. With the assets we have, with those universities we have, there's no reason we're not a top 10 state. We should never be a bottom 10 state. Recently, I attended a meeting with the Wyoming County Chamber. I heard more common sense at that meeting in that hour than I've heard in the last 7 years. They had practical ideas. They don't want bailouts. They don't want a handout. They want an opportunity to succeed. We should have a simple rule. If a bill creates jobs, we're for it. If it kills jobs, we kill the bill.
Thank you. Commissioner Gale.
There's two reasons why people are leaving Pennsylvania. One, we have a terrible governor, Tom Wolf, and we also have lousy Republicans in our state Senate and state House that hold the majority there. And the last thing we need to do to reverse that trend and bring people back to Pennsylvania and keep them here is elect another radical liberal, and that's what we'll have out of Josh Shapiro, who will be the Democrat nominee for governor. And I'm the only Republican candidate that has the ability to defeat Josh Shapiro in the general election in November, because we come from the same home county. We were both Montgomery County commissioners together. That's where I developed a lot of name recognition, personal relationships, right in his home turf. I can beat Shapiro. And I'll be a different type of governor, because when I get to Harrisburg, I will hold accountable the Republicans in the legislature that let us down time and time again. And I would use my governorship as a bully pulpit to do just that. Because the reality is the Republicans will maintain the majority in the state legislature. We know that because of gerrymandering, the way the district maps are drawn. And I'm going to go to Harrisburg to shake things up. And we can lower taxes, we can reduce regulations, but I have to be the Republican nominee to make it happen.
Thank you. Ms. Hart.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. And like Mr. Mon, I agree with everything that's been said on the podium tonight. One thing I'd like to add, though, is that it's been over many years that we've been losing population. Every time there's been a census, we've lost congressional seats. And that's a frustrating thing, because not only are we losing people here to grow Pennsylvania's economy, but we're also losing clout on the federal level. So it's imperative that we focus on our policies. Why are people leaving? Because we have anti-growth policies. Why are people leaving? Because we have a bureaucracy that cares more about their sustenance than they care about the people of Pennsylvania's sustenance. It's important for us to elect someone who understands these challenges. I've served on both the federal and state level. I believe I can start as governor on day one to reverse the bad attitude in our bureaucracy and to enact, with the legislature cooperation, some great policies that will attract growth here.
Thank you. Senator Martin.
This is an outstanding question to start the night off with, because the problem is beyond just 10 straight censuses of losing a congressional seat. Our fastest growing age demographic is 85 and above. The high school pipeline of graduates continues to decline, and we got more and more grandparents who have to go visit their grandkids in other states. We consistently hear the stories of people fleeing places like California, going to the Floridas, the Arizonas, the Carolinas. And why is that? Because they have pro-growth policies, right, where we have the exact opposite here with one of the most onerous regulatory and tax climates in the country. We have consistent resistance to providing the best educational opportunities for our children that meet their needs and their families' needs. Kids who lose out on lotteries, hoping to have a better chance in life. If you really want jobs to come here, and if we really want families to plant their roots here, we have to have a parent and family-focused educational system, and we have to have pro-growth and anti-severe regulatory policies put to the side.
Thank you. Mr. Berger.
Yes, and I agree with everybody, and thank you for having me on here tonight. One of the biggest problems as a small business owner is that we're having definitely people trying to come out and put applications in. Unemployment has really failed the people of Pennsylvania. And it's really disgusting to know that they stick up for these people when they come into our establishment and they'll either put applications in and not show up. And then we're, as a business owner, opposed to sit there and report this every single time somebody doesn't come in. That's not, as a business owner, it's not our problem to sit there and report every single person that doesn't show up for work. What is our problem is to get Pennsylvania back on track, getting people back to work, and starting to cut unemployment. Give them a 30-day limit, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Corman.
Thank you very much. This question is very personal to me because I have 3 children. I have a daughter who's in college, is with us here tonight, and 2 sons that are in high school. And over the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to make a decision of where they're going to live their life. Well, as a parent, and as many parents in this room or watching on TV or grandparents, I'm selfish. I want them to live in Pennsylvania. I want them somewhere close where I can still be part of their lives and see them raise their families. This governor has used our tax code in a way to punish employers. I'm going to use our tax code in a way to inspire employer investment. Just give you a perfect example. A little town of Nanticoke, Pennsylvania, to illustrate your point, used to have a population of 35,000 people, and now has a population of 10,000 people. We worked with Senator Udicek from Luzerne County and passed a tax credit to inspire investment. That investment is now paid off, or that a tax credit has paid off because they're going to, Nacero Company is going to invest $6 billion, create over 4,000 trade jobs, create hundreds of permanent jobs in a small town, the largest economic development project in the history of Luzerne County. I'll use the tax code to inspire growth, but the governor uses it to punish growth.
Thank you. For our next question, we're going to begin with Mr. Ritchie at podium number 5. And Terry, you'll have this question.
Thank you, Becky. On behalf of Broad and Liberty, thank you, candidates, for your participation tonight and for sharing your vision of the Commonwealth with the people of Pennsylvania. For my question, Governor Wolf took a top-down, Harrisburg-centric approach to managing the COVID-19 pandemic. Attorney General Josh Shapiro repeatedly defended these policies in court. How would you have governed differently?
Yeah, that is a great question. And, we live in this regime where they ordered COVID-positive elderly people from the hospitals and sent them back to the nursing homes at the same time our Secretary of Health was ordering her mother out. Criminal. We lived under a regime that arbitrarily closed businesses. Wolf's cabinet company was fine, but its direct competitor, Hoff Enterprises in Johnstown, they weren't allowed to have business. Also, we had a governor that became a dictator, and we needed to amend our Constitution to change it. That is an abuse of power, an abuse of our constitutional rights and liberties. And I, as governor, would not do that. We have to fundamentally remember people's constitutional rights and give them liberty and give them the opportunity to pursue their happiness, even during a pandemic. Appropriate responses and making sure there's transparency so that we flatten the curve in the event that our hospital beds are overbooked, that's appropriate. But taking away people's fundamental liberties is not. It was criminal, it was unconstitutional, and we can't have that kind of abuse of power in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Mr. White.
Yes, the first job of the governor is to protect the liberties and freedoms of the Pennsylvania people. That's his first job. I was one of those businesses that Governor Wolf shut down. He shut down without any plan, without any warning. I had to tell my 85 employees they had to go home, and I did not know what the future of DWD Mechanical was at that time. It was me and 10,000 other businesses across Pennsylvania. That should have never happened. He never had a plan. I would have had a plan. You cannot shut down and take people's properties from them without compensation. The Constitution states that, and it should never have happened. He exempted his own business. That was the final straw for me, and that's what got me involved in running for governor. That should never have happened. We've been taught for 18 months now to follow the science. He never followed the science. It was going to be a 15-day shutdown just so we could catch up. That never happened. I would make sure that liberties and freedoms were protected and make sure that people were safe, secure, and healthy, and keep businesses open.
Thank you. Mr. Mon.
Well, like Mr. White, I also was affected when the governor shut down businesses. We were told on March 13th that the next day we were unable to open to the public. And I, like Mr. White, had to worry about employees. And what was I going to do? Were we going to survive? I have a family. What was going to happen? You know, and like Mr. White said also, the governor's first job is to protect the freedom and liberty of Pennsylvanians. And this might sound simple, but I think the way you do that is you provide the people the ability of choice, and you let people make their own decisions. And that's what I would have done. Yes, there's a point where you have to worry about the safety of the whole. There's no doubt about that. But allowing people to be adults, allowing them to make these decisions and choose for themselves whether they want to go into a business or not go into a business. I think we have to trust Pennsylvanians do the right thing, and that's what I would have done had I been thrown into the same circumstances.
Thank you. Mr. Shiraki.
Governor Wolf closed too much for too long. He was too slow to reopen, and then he paid people not to work. I'm still waiting to think if I can think of one thing that he did right during this time. And what does it mean? It means that people like this, like Jerry, who runs Timeless Destinations in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, a restaurant like Jason runs, that means is that his restaurant nearly closed. Why? Because we thought about power in Harrisburg instead of people. That's the problem. What would I have done? Everything differently. First of all, you err on the side of liberty, not locking people down. Second of all, you respect citizens. You never take away their liberty. No mandates, no lockdowns. You provide people with information and then treat them like adults. I worked with other chambers around the state, begging and imploring the governor and his cabinet to listen to us, to let us work to get businesses open, to work to get people back in school. What you do is the opposite of what was done. You err on the side of liberty, you collaborate with people, and you trust the citizens of Pennsylvania to do the right thing.
Thank you. Commissioner?
We all remember when Governor Wolf and Richard Levine, the health secretary, made the announcement 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Well, here we are approaching 2 years. Their response to the COVID-19 pandemic did not work. It's that simple. And I said from the very beginning in my capacity as a county commissioner, the cure for the disease cannot be worse than the disease itself. And this totalitarian nanny-state dictator-style government crippled our economy. Even our children were penalized by the response. And that's the least vulnerable population to this virus. We should protect our senior citizens. The state government botched that. So enough of the mask wearing, enough of the mandated vaccinations and booster shots. We should have the freedom to decide what we do with our own bodies. And I believe the citizens of Pennsylvania have more common sense than the politicians in Harrisburg. And I'm going to put people before politics and make those right decisions when I become your next governor.
Thank you. Ms. Hart?
I serve on the board of directors, and it's a very active board of a small business lender called Enterprise Bank. We wrote more PPP loans for our clients probably than PNC Bank, because our clients were the ones who took a direct and serious blow from the pandemic and from the forced shutdowns that were ill-advised, but this governor and the administration proceeded with little reason and obviously little logic. My law firm, which is a small business, also spent a significant amount of time trying to find opportunities for our clients to stay open. And if anybody looked at that list, our goal was to say, well, if you're a builder, maybe you do something that makes you essential. Well, the governor's first mistake is making the decision that he was the arbiter of whether a person's living was essential. I agree with the other speakers. It's important that we follow our motto, virtue, liberty, and independence.
Thank you. Senator?
In my 8 years as a Lancaster County Commissioner overseeing emergency management, things like blizzards, Tropical Storm Lee, long-term nuclear radioactive emergencies, the hallmark of any emergency response was effective communication, collaboration, and transparency. The exact opposite happened under this governor. Never before have I seen local governments in history pushed to the side in terms of responding. Never before have we seen a complete shutout of dealing with the General Assembly to try to make things better for the people of Pennsylvania. But what's even worse, it's a story about winners and losers. The winners, the folks who got to keep their businesses open while their competitors were made to be shut. Or how about COVID being the #1 health issue while your grandfather couldn't get heart surgery or your child couldn't have cancer treatment? Winners and losers was the theme. I was proud to author the constitutional amendment with Senator Kim Ward that the voters passed, and even in that moment, they tried to lie and trick the voters, even with that language. We can do much better all working together to respond to emergencies.
Thank you. Mr. Berger?
Yes, I opened up my restaurant in the pandemic back in 2020. Right before I was ready to open up, they shut me down. I was open. We tried to open anyway, and the shutdown lasted for, 2 months, 2.5 months. At the end, everybody was starting to get fed up with it. The Christmas in 2020, I had employees come to me in tears, saying, what are we going to do? I don't have no money. We went through all of our savings. What are we supposed to do? I can't find another job. I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. I said, we're staying open. I said, I don't care what Tom Wolf has to say. I said, we're going to stay open, and we're going to make this work, and you guys are going to have the best damn Christmas you guys ever had. And then after that, she was happy. We came. We conquered. They tried to shut us down. Tom Wolf sent out threatening letters. At the end of the day, guess what? It didn't matter because we won. We're still open, and nothing else is going to matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator?
Thank you. As governor, I'd react to a pandemic like this by putting people first, by trusting people. This governor decided who could go to work and who couldn't go to work, who could go to school and who couldn't go to school, who could get health care and who couldn't get health care. I was there in the legislature, leading the legislature, fighting side by side with my Republican colleagues, fighting this governor. Then ultimately concluded with us passing a constitutional amendment, which the voters of Pennsylvania supported, curtailing the governor's powers in an emergency. So those type of shutdowns can never happen again. And as a parent, I took this governor to court. I took him to court when his mask mandates circumvented the local school district's health and safety plans. And I defeated him with a unanimous decision out of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Imagine that. 7-0, we defeated this governor again. So how would I react to a pandemic? By putting people first and trusting people.
Thank you. Mr. Ventry?
Well, I wrote the first book in America on COVID, March 15th, 2 days after we shut down. 8 days later, Amazon took it down because of the title, The Wuhan Conspiracy. 22 months ago, we didn't know what to expect. We thought this was another black plague. And I give President Trump a lot of credit for shutting down the airlines and then shutting down the economy. I thought 7 weeks was a long time. I expected 3 to 4 weeks. But Tom Wolf's scorched earth, one policy for all, is not the way to govern. Philadelphia has nothing in common with Punxsutawney, Sharon, PA, Mount Pleasant, PA. Like my plan to cut the business tax, I can manage on different levels. I'm a hugely creative person. We should have had different rules for cities than extended areas. The one thing that has been missed phenomenally is I have a glass respirator with 2 filters on it. That should have been mass-produced for seniors and not ventilators that killed them. A small percentage of the population should have had those respirators. I would have produced those. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Giroux.
The disastrous policies of Tom Wolf and Josh Shapiro that kept our kids out of school, shuttered our businesses, and kept us locked in our homes were clearly not the way to govern during that pandemic. If you wanted to see a good model and one that I would use, look to Ron DeSantis or Kristi Noem and other governors that allowed freedom to be at the apex of all of their decision-making. We passed 2 constitutional amendments to limit the power of a governor. I have a third that I would put my shoulder to the wheel on from day one, and that would be a constitutional amendment to allow the people of Pennsylvania, each and every one of us, the power to recall and remove from office any governor that thinks he or she is a king. What happened during this pandemic was a disaster for Pennsylvania. It didn't make us any safer, and unfortunately, it kept small businesses, and my business was one that was shuttered, closed. We've got to do something to bring those small businesses back and the opportunities and the jobs that they create.
Thank you. Mr. McSwain.
Tom Wolf governed out of fear. He did not govern based on science. He ignored individual rights, and he unnecessarily harmed our state. So how would I be different? First of all, under Governor McSwain, there would be no business closures. All businesses are essential, and our schools would be open. But also, where was Governor Wolf during the pandemic, especially at the beginning? He hid in his basement. Okay, that was a dereliction of duty. During a time of crisis, that's when leaders should be the most visible. And I was the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania during the pandemic. And that's when I was the most visible. I was at work every day or out in the community every day, leading my office and making sure that the laws were enforced. So what I would be doing is what Marines always do, which is lead from the front, which is the exact opposite of what our governor did.
Thank you. Dr. Zama.
The governor is just a servant of the people. And it was a great disappointment the way Governor Wolf handled COVID. I would handle COVID different. As a cardiac surgeon, every decision you make must be in the best interest of the ones you serve. That's the patient. And for cardiac surgery to be successful, and just like any pillar in our life, you need a high-performance team. You need somebody who has passion, understanding, and commitment. And if you turn around and look at the way COVID was managed, that was woefully missing. And the consequences of that would take a long time to correct. Our children, who dying in massive numbers now from suicide, from draconian measures like closures that were totally unnecessary and not grounded in science. I've said all along that what Pennsylvania needs is a compassionate, critical thinker in this phase of our lives. And what's even more important, we have more viruses on the way. And what kind of leader would you want in Harrisburg to handle that?
Thank you, candidates. Now moving on to our third question, we will begin with Senator Martin at podium 11. Terry, or no, I'm sorry, it's Allison is your question. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Becky. Pennsylvania is the #2 producer of gas and electricity in the nation and the largest exporter of power in the country. But Washington has shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. Gas and utility prices are rising, and regulators have warned about possible blackouts and having to import foreign energy. As governor, how will you balance protecting the environment and the interests of energy, jobs, and consumers?
We have absolutely been blessed with Marcellus here and being a power producer, one of the preeminent ones in the country, but we have yet to fully recognize or realize its potential, the ripple effect of jobs, good paying jobs that go with it. Instead, what we give them is uncertainty, a threat of constant higher taxes, just regulatory burdens that are not seen in other states. So we're chasing away investment to neighbors like West Virginia and Ohio. And to top it all off, they thought coming in this period of inflation and everything that our governor wants to implement a $500 million carbon tax which will cripple Pennsylvania's economy, raise our gas prices and our energy prices by 18%. And he wants to turn over the decision-making ability to a group of 11 other states to make decisions on what's best for Pennsylvania's future. The moment Pennsylvania decides to embrace and grow this industry, the better we will be at gaining back that economic competitive edge that we talked about in the beginning.
Mr. Berger?
Again, I would like to work with agriculturals, farming, and we need to start producing our own fuels in our own state, like vegetable oil, like I use out of my deep fryers. I process it all down myself in my backyard. It's as simple as that. I run it through my diesel motor truck, 100% emissions free. It's made with vegetable oil and it's made with methanol. Mix it together with a little bit of lye and it takes everything apart. After that, we can start building jobs. We can start teaching farmers how to produce this more and more. And then once we start getting an overabundance of vegetable oil, we can start selling it to other states. In the meantime, we can also use it in home heating oil and other aspects of life. Thank you.
Senator?
Well, as governor, again, I would put people first. And the first thing I would do day one after taking the oath of office is go up to my office, and if the Governor Wolf is successful in getting us in the regional greenhouse gas alliance, I will take us out, much like Governor-elect Youngkin is doing in Virginia. Look, when I made my announcement to run for governor, I picked an old manufacturing facility in my hometown of Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, because I wanted to send the message that if we're going to rebuild Pennsylvania, poor public policies of the past have allowed this industry to leave. And industries all across Pennsylvania, particularly northeast, central, and western Pennsylvania. We need a governor who wants to embrace this energy economy. This is our ticket. This is our chance to rebuild all these communities that are losing population by converting. I don't want to be an exporter of natural gas. I want to be a converter of natural gas into jobs, into product, just like we did, as I mentioned, in Nacero, just like we're doing at the Cracker plant in Beaver County. Those are just two examples. We should have hundreds of examples. That's how all these communities are losing population. We can rebuild. We could do it. We are a Commonwealth with access to markets. We're a Commonwealth with higher education and intellectual capital. We are a Commonwealth on the move if we just have a governor that wants to lean in on this energy economy.
Mr. Ventry?
A great Alaskan once said, drill, baby, drill. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to put a liquid natural gas port in Philly, so we can export our gas to Europe so they don't have to rely on Russia. I am not in favor of subsidies for wind and solar. I think they should compete on their own merits. I happen to believe the global warming story is not true. All these comparisons go to 1850, which was the end of the mini ice age. I got news for you. The earth was warmer in the year 1000 than right now. When Jesus walked, it was 3 degrees warmer than now. When the Minoans were an empire, it was 6 degrees warmer. They don't tell you that part of the story. Everybody did fine back then. The global warming is an inconvenient lie. We're going to drill, baby, drill. Thank you.
Mr. Giroux.
From the very beginning, I've been a supporter of the safe and responsible development of natural gas. In fact, my firm was the one that coined the phrase, a gold mine under our feet, referencing the trillions of cubic feet of natural gas underneath Pennsylvania soil. But the thing that hit me the most was when I was up in one of the gas fields early on, talking to one of the workers there. And I asked, what's the most important thing about this natural gas boom for Pennsylvania? I thought he might say, my job, or my family's economy, or the fact that we're able to reduce costs for home heating, or the fact that our economy thrives as a result. But he looked me in the eye, and he used but one word, and he said, hope. And that, in my judgment, is what the safe and responsible development of natural gas and all of our energy, not simply natural gas, but all of our energy is about. Governor Wolf had a study on his desk that said that the cracker facility could be expanded 2 or 3 times in Pennsylvania. Those are the kinds of initiatives we need to be taking.
Mr. McSwain.
We're seeing that Green New Deal nonsense has real world consequences, and we're all experiencing them. Sky-high gas prices, higher energy prices, dependence on foreign sources of energy. We should not be dependent for our energy needs on countries that hate us. Joe Biden is literally going hat in hand to OPEC and begging them to produce more oil. That is craziness. But fortunately, we have everything that we need right here in Pennsylvania to be an energy powerhouse. We should harness all of our state's energy resources, but especially natural gas. That's how we make gas and energy prices lower instead of higher. Pennsylvania is poised to lead the way, but only if we have a Republican governor who is fully committed to energy exploration. I will be that governor, and by doing so, I will bring jobs, I'll bring lower energy prices, and I'll bring prosperity to our state.
Dr. Zama.
I agree with all my colleagues. And implicit in the responses from everyone here, we can see that a lot of decisions historically, and it's sad to say, have been made to satisfy a political imperative or for political ascendancy without any pragmatism. And energy is one of those. We have a lot of natural resources in Pennsylvania, and as governor of Pennsylvania, I will support their use. I think that windmills, as we know, are not ready to run our massive industries in Pennsylvania. Nobody can convince me otherwise, and we all know that. And let's see what happened just a few months ago when our friends met up in Europe discussing the climate issue. And just recently, every single country, Germany, UK, France, China, and India, have ratcheted up either coal production or production of more gas. Now, Germany is piping up to Russia to get some gas. That's pragmatism. That's the type of pragmatism that I will take to Harrisburg. We need people who care about the people and make decisions in the best interest of the people in Pennsylvania.
Mr. Ritchie.
For the last 26 years, I've been an energy and construction lawyer all around the world at one of the largest law firms in the world. I'm an expert on this, and we sit in Pennsylvania under an ocean of natural gas. Now, I'm for all types of energy, but we've got to get that natural gas out of the ground, and we need to build an infrastructure network throughout Pennsylvania, all intrastate, all pipelines through the state to Philadelphia. We will build liquefaction plants to turn that natural gas to liquid so we can export it to places like Boston that get most of their natural gas from Russia, to our NATO allies over in Europe. And we will also get our naval yard in Philadelphia going again, building the ships we need to take our natural gas all over the world. Some estimates show the Ritchie Energy Plan can create up to 50,000 direct and indirect jobs all throughout the Commonwealth. We get the whole Commonwealth working together. That will improve our environment because the more natural gas market share that Pennsylvania has, the less that Russia and China have. It'll improve our national security, and it'll make our country energy independent. Thank you.
Mr. White.
Well, Pennsylvania certainly has been short-sighted in what we have beneath our feet, no doubt about it. And as governor, I'm going to make sure that ends on day one. I will make sure we are the energy capital of this United States. I've been going across the state telling people, I don't want to be like Texas. I want to beat Texas. And we have so much resource beneath us, but we also have to get it, as Jason stated, across the state. There are plans to use the right-of-ways in the turnpike, in the interstates, across the state. They should have been initiated a long time ago. It could have been a new revenue resource as well for this state. Under Dave White, we're going to make sure we tap every inch of what's beneath our ground and get it through that. You're talking $80, $90, $100,000 jobs. I'm a pipe fitter. I believe in pipelines. They're the safest way to have this product transported, and we should have them throughout the state so every corner of the state can also share in the resources we have beneath our feet.
Mr. Mon.
So as a business owner, I have something that a lot of politicians don't have, and that's common sense. And what I mean by that is this. My business would be my state, and I would be foolish to not take advantage of any asset that my business has to not further my state. So why are we not doing it? You know, a lot of people will say there's risk. Well, you know what? There's risk every day in our lives. We need to learn to take safe risks. We can do things the proper way and not be ridiculous about them. For me, we talk about the other forms of energy. Yeah, they're out there and they're fine, but they're not there yet. We need to take advantage of what we have and use that to our advantage and make us the #1 state again. I heard somebody say about indirect jobs that are created from this type of business. My business is one of those jobs. When those type of businesses are running, I'm receiving more customers because those people have money to come to places like mine. So it's a trickle-down effect, which I know people say doesn't work, but I'm going to disagree with that. Thanks.
Mr. Strachey?
Pennsylvania can save the nation's problems. We're sitting on more energy than most nations on the planet. We are duty-bound, morally, not just economically. We are duty-bound to get that energy out of the ground and get into our homes and our businesses to help Pennsylvanians, to help Pennsylvania farmers, but to also help the nation. We have enough energy to do it. We need to get it out of the ground and into businesses and homes and our schools, not just to attract businesses, but to keep the businesses we do have. We need to get more midstream piping so that Pennsylvanians can benefit from Pennsylvania energy. It's not just the energy in and of itself. It's what else it can bring. The chemical business, the gateway to hydrogen and solar panels. If you don't have gas, you can't make solar panels. And it's just not rhetoric tonight. In 2014, as the CEO of a chamber in suburban Philadelphia, I took my members up to Susquehanna County and to Lycoming County because I knew how important energy was to our state, to all Pennsylvanians. As governor, I'll get it into the ground, into our homes, save Pennsylvania, and rescue our nation.
Commissioner Gale.
God bless the Keystone State with an abundance of natural resources right under our feet. And it's literally untapped potential, and we should fully utilize that industry. It'll help drive down utility costs, it will create jobs, and the revenue generated from the fracking industry, for example, should remain in the territories or regions of the state that have Marcellus Shale and the fracking. It shouldn't go to Pittsburgh, it shouldn't go to Philadelphia, it should remain in those regions. And we're talking about the price of energy. Pennsylvania has the third highest gasoline tax in the entire nation, right behind California and Illinois. That's nothing to brag about. And that gas tax was given to us with a Republican governor and a Republican majority in the state Senate and the state House, the infamous Corbett gas tax. And that revenue collected was supposed to go towards fixing our roads. And I travel all across the roads in Pennsylvania meeting with the people. And we must have the worst roads in the entire country. So something's seriously wrong there. We don't have a revenue problem, we have a cost problem. And as your next governor, I'll fix the roads and I'll do it at a lower cost.
Ms. Hart?
Utilizing our natural resources is key for Pennsylvania, for our future, for our children's future, for our economic future. We need to utilize these resources in a responsible way, but who would be more interested in being environmentally responsible than the significant number of farmers who are the people who are now benefiting from the natural gas industry, people who are very, very close to the environment, who have been supportive of this kind of development. It has re-energized a lot of our rural areas, and it is unwise for us to limit that kind of energy production. Natural gas is a clean burning fuel. As Senator Corman mentioned earlier regarding the Nacero project, for example, converting that to liquid fuel, it is just a huge boost for our economy. It's important for us to be energy independent again. The limitations that have been forced by the federal government must be fought. And as governor, I would make sure that we can be energy independent again with Pennsylvania as the center of energy production.
Thank you, candidates. For question number 4, we're going to get it down to the end of the row and begin with Senator Corman at podium 13. And your question for him, Terry?
Senator Corman, after more than a decade of stalemate in Harrisburg on virtually every major policy issue, how would you build a coalition that is not only able to win the election, but also govern and implement your agenda?
That's a great question. And just recently, on both Republican and Democrat side of the Senate, there were speeches that were made or referred to me as someone who says over and over again, I'm there to get things done. And that's what we're supposed to be as public policymakers. You know, we're judged by our results, not by what we're for, but what we can get accomplished. You know, as someone who served in the legislature, who had transitioned to the executive branch as a governor, who then can work with the legislature, who actually respects the legislature, the sky's the limit for Pennsylvania. You know, we have access to markets, as I said. We have more natural resources than we can even think about. We have higher educational institution, intellectual capital, second to none in the world. People should want to be in Pennsylvania. If we just have a government that wants to put people first in making decisions on how we can get them back to work, how we can get them really good jobs, how we can rebuild our communities. That's what I am. That's why I'm running for governor, because I'm one about people first, so we can rebuild Pennsylvania using all the assets I just mentioned.
Mr. Ventry.
You know, the Republicans and the media and the committees, they all think that the next candidate is going to be the one that raises the most money or claims to put up the most money, or a current senator or elected official that voted for Act 77 that cost the best president in my lifetime to lose Pennsylvania. There's three types of candidates. You have your politician who wants to advance himself and is an insider. You have your Romney rhino who wants to negotiate middle left. You can figure out who those people are. I'm not one of them. The person that's going to win this election is going to be a Tea Party patriot. That's who's going to win. That's who the people want. I'm not all that interested in negotiating with the left. I'm really not. When I'm governor as a Republican, we have a Republican House, we have a Republican Senate. We will come together and we will make Pennsylvania great because we'll have the majority. And that's what we're going to do. Thank you.
Mr. Giroux.
I'm proud of my record as a coalition builder and somebody who's been called the conservative happy warrior because of my ability to reach out to other people, not only for their ideas, but for their talent. Because in a world of giant egos, and mine's no smaller than anybody's, I've been able through the years to put it in check and to bring in the brightest and the best. Surround myself with people who are better at what they do than I am. And that's what I'll do as governor. I know what needs to be done. I know how to do it. I know how to attract the brightest and best. I know how to listen to others. And the people I want to listen to the most are the people of Pennsylvania. I said earlier tonight, if you want more than a 1-minute answer, go to Charlie for governor. If you want to talk to me personally, call me. My phone number is 717-877-8194. 717-877-8194. You don't find too many statewide candidates giving out their personal cell number, but I think it's important that our governor listen to the people of Pennsylvania.
Mr. McSwain.
We've raised a critical issue because we need change in Pennsylvania. And we are never going to have change in Pennsylvania if we have a career politician as governor. And there are a number of career politicians on this stage tonight. Instead, we need an outsider, somebody who owes nothing to the Harrisburg swamp. That is who I am. I have never run for office before. I'm a conservative outsider. But I've lived a life of public service as a Marine and a prosecutor, and I know how to get things done. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. When I'm governor, we're going to do things differently. And that starts with being a responsible steward of the people's money. There is no such thing as government money. It does not exist. There is only the people's money. And the bigger our government, the less money that families have to put in their pockets. So my agenda as governor will be to end this destructive cycle, to limit the size of government, and to be an advocate for the hardworking families of Pennsylvania.
Dr. Zama.
I believe whatever you do in life, always remember the people that you serve. Unlike anybody on this podium, I have been tested to the extremes. I've been a leader in the largest industry in America, the healthcare industry. I've traveled the world, speak 6 languages, and conducted teams around the world on a humanitarian basis. We're not all alike. Uniformity is not what we're looking for, it's unity. And we must remember, if we take extreme positions and we call others extreme leftists, that the eagle only flies if it has a left wing and a right wing. And I know how to bring people together. I've done it in healthcare. Because a leader is somebody who absorbs uncertainty and somebody who inspires. If we fight each other, we will never succeed. And the ones that would hurt would be our children. In the battle of the elephants, it's the grass that hurts. Pennsylvania needs a leader who's compassionate, critical thinker with a crossroads in our history. And I can be that person. Ultimate package deal. Thank you.
Mr. Ritchie.
I'm a political outsider from Pittsburgh that is ready to govern on day one. We have created on my website, jasonritchie2022.com, a 12-point plan called the Contract with Pennsylvania. And the reason I put this plan together, we brought some of the best experts. How do we turn Pennsylvania around? And we put it in writing because I want the voters to be able to hold me accountable that I will do what I say I will do. And that plan will help govern, because when I win, we will implement it, including slowly bringing us to 0% income tax so we don't penalize people for going out to work, shrinking the cost of government, making sure that we reform education through school choice and making sure the money follows the child, unleashing our energy and manufacturing so that we reduce energy costs for all Pennsylvanians and bring new manufacturers to the state, and also bringing election integrity through getting rid of the 50 days of mail-in balloting that Act 77 gave us. Having that in writing and having that plan together called the Contract for Pennsylvania will give me a mandate to start implementing with the legislature on day one the reforms necessary, and we will turn around Pennsylvania quickly.
Mr. White.
Thank you. I would exactly say they did nothing. They doubled the budget in 10 years. And I doubt anybody watching this TV has had their salary doubled in 10 years. If you want to get something done, send somebody that's a result-oriented businessman to get it done. I can't double my budget if the money's not coming in. In Pennsylvania, they're spending other people's money. That's not the way they're doing it, and they're doing a poor job of it. They need to start acting like it's their own money, like it's their own business they're running. And in Pennsylvania, when I'm governor, I will run this state as a business. Regulations, we're going to throw every regulation, and if we don't need it, we're going to get rid of it. We're still working off a regulation from 1906. We're going to go through every department. If it's too big, we're going to shrink it. If we don't need it, we're going to get rid of it. And if we need it, we're going to make it more efficient. That's how you run a business. That's how you need to run Pennsylvania. That's how you attract businesses from other states to Pennsylvania. As governor, I'm going to make sure we run it more like a business mentality than it's run now.
Mr. Mon.
So to answer the question about how do you build a coalition, it's quite simple, I think. Again, back to this common sense phrase I mentioned earlier, is I employ approximately 20 to 25 teenagers. If I can get those people to work together, I can get a lot of people to work together. I say that when we went through the pandemic and when we were shut down, one thing I'm most proud of that my wife and I and my crew did was, as the restaurants, we were shut down, we felt bad for other people that were shut down. We wanted to make a plan about what we could do to help out our community, because there was a lot of people going through a lot of stuff. We're from a small community. My town is roughly 6,500 people. And my wife and I came up with the idea of, let's give away free meals to kids. And that'll just help out, thinking this won't be very big, this won't be anything. Well, boy, was I wrong. Because in a matter of the 3 months that we did this program, we gave away over 31,000 meals. And we didn't do that by ourselves. We did that by building a team of people in my community to come together and do the right thing. I can do that. Thanks.
Mr. Shiraki.
You build a coalition by working together for common goals. I was part of the leadership effort across Pennsylvania to pass the Vote Yes initiatives back in the primary. Was part of a coalition of business people, of store owners, of parents who've wanted their kids in schools, of people regardless of affiliation. So I know what it's like to be part of a coalition that wins. Our next greatest challenge where we have to come together is education. We need school choice. I'm a chamber CEO whose passion is education. The thing we need to do is reform education. There's no more important issue where we need to build a winning coalition than school choice. Why? Because it's about the children. Wouldn't be a question if I didn't have a picture. We need school choice because it's about children. There are 50,000 children on charter school waiting lists, tens of thousands who wanted school scholarships, but the money ran out. Parents of kids trapped in failing public schools. We need to build a coalition to bring about school choice. We build that coalition with those parents and those of us who understand that economically and morally, we have to rescue those kids and we have to empower our parents. Thank you.
Commissioner?
My platform for governor is the same platform that any Republican seeking the governorship should be running on. And that's to deliver the agenda that former Governor Tom Corbett failed to deliver, the conservative agenda for Pennsylvania. And I know liberals will resist that agenda. They're not going to support me when I push for prevailing wage reform, pension reform for state employees, school choice, property tax reform, voter ID, election reform. They'll resist it. But when the Republicans that hold the majority in our state legislature resist it, I'm going to call them out publicly by name. And I will also support primary challenges against the Republicans in the state legislature when they worry too much about catering to public sector unions, campaign donors, party bosses, and establishment insiders instead of pushing that conservative agenda forward. I will not be another Arlen Specter. I will not be another Pat Toomey. I will not be another